Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswar, and our own beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda, saints of all religions, we very humbly bow at thy feet. Divine Mother, great masters of self-realization, open our hearts to your steady flow of grace. Help us to realize in this lifetime our oneness with thee. Inspire us to share this love, these teachings, this inspiration with everyone who comes to us. We are thy children. We yearn to know thee. Receive us. Om Shanti Shanti. Amen.
Preparation for meditation now. Let's inhale, tense and vibrate our bodies. Throw the breath out. Again, inhale. Tense and vibrate. Throw the breath out. And one last time. Now offer the heart's natural devotion awakened through chanting up to the point between the eyebrows, calling to God there. Reveal thyself, and feel his response in your hearts. We'll meditate for about 10 or 15 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Satsang this morning. I'd like to begin with the reading from Whispers from Eternity, the book of Poem and Prayers by Paramahansa Yogananda. This prayer is called Many Doors Opened Before Me. Many doors opened before me at the dawn of thy coming. O Lord, the very earth shone with life when thou camest. The very ground on which I stood thrilled me because of thee. Everywhere dumb matter spoke to me, spirit resurrected by thy touch. All living things swayed in the incense breeze of thy approach, hinting of thy perfume of bliss. Thy sanctuary of omnipresence was long hidden by the darkness of my indifference. Now, on the revealed courtyard of thy temple, I find thy fountain of joy gaily bubbling. With uplifted palm cups of craving, I catch and drink from the vital waters of thy solace. Lord, I know now that I shall thirst nevermore. This morning I'd like to read from this book, God is for Everyone, but in preparation, before I read it, I'd like to give a little explanation of this book and the reason why Swami wrote it. This book is called God is for Everyone. And the first book that Yogananda wrote when he came to America was called The Science of Religion. It was edited by a pedantic editor, and it became sort of unreadable in Swamiji's estimation. And so we wanted, it was such a beautiful piece of spiritual literature that he wanted it to be understandable for everybody. And so Swamiji, through praying to Master and opening up to Master's vibration, rewrote the book, and he titled it God is for Everyone. And that title in itself is the reason why he wrote the book. He wanted people to know that yes, indeed, God is for everyone. There is no special person that cannot find God. There is no darkness where God cannot bring the light. There is no person on this earth that is not a part of God. And so he wrote this beautiful book, and I would recommend reading it, of course. And so he talks about the individual's relationship with God and how to really feel that. What does that mean? In the same year, he also wrote another book called Hope for a Better World. And in that book, he talked about the value of communities, spiritual communities, and spiritual souls getting together in satsang. And the movement on this earth right now during this time in Dwapara Yuga of spiritual communities, satsang, getting together, really magnetizing your individual relationship with God and sharing it in community. And so it's interesting, he wrote both of those books in the same year. And in that year, that was the year that he left Ananda village and he moved to Italy. And he was there for many years. And from Italy, he came to India. So it was a gift that he left all of us when he wrote these books. I would like to begin by reading just a short passage from the book. It's very short. In working with others, all should remind themselves constantly that their true duty is to serve God. The actual beneficiary of that service, moreover, is ultimately the individual, not an amorphous mass of people. What is even society but an aggregate of individuals? Though religion is designed for the upliftment of many, it is, in the end, the individual who benefits from its every worthwhile activity. No matter how we define that activity, the gain from it is in consciousness, not in the number of people involved. Any upliftment of consciousness, no matter how many it includes, is subjective. One true soul, I often say, is preferable in God's eyes to a crowd, and best of all are crowds of souls. There is no gain, as far as God is concerned, from a growing congregation. It is man himself in consciousness who gains by his inward transformation. The motto of every religion should be, love God, for he is bliss. Too often, in contradiction of God's own ways, the unwritten motto is control others in God's name, or control them lest they offend God. Love between the Creator and His creation should be spontaneous, and in spontaneity, love becomes bliss. And then he says, religion is necessary because few people without religion would be inspired to seek truth at all. And it's such a beautiful thought, and we've lost it in our running after material things. We've lost it by forgetting that the only true bliss, true happiness is God. And we think God is far away from us. We think that we have to pray and be good and finish this worldly karma first, and then we will have God. But that's not the way it works, because we have to remember through deep meditation and through selfless service, we begin to get that inkling that God, we already are a part of God. There is no then, there is no future. It's now. It's the eternal now. This is where God is. This is where we are. We cannot get confused by the drama that we find ourselves in. It's only karma that we're having to work out. We've created it in the past. We don't have a memory of that, but we have created the karma in our life, the people in our lives, the situations we find ourselves in, the problems that come up, the blessings that happen. We've done that. We've put out that energy, and now it's coming back. But the real true purpose of that, no matter what you're going through, whatever karma is happening in your life, that you are not alone in working this out. You are not alone. You've never been alone, and you never will be alone. That God is with you every moment, and we need to bring Him into our daily lives. We need to individually, Master used to say, make love to God. Individually make love to God. Think about that. I can't make love to God for you, because you are an individual, bright soul that was created so that you can realize your freedom and union with God. Each one of us has that destiny. Each one of us has that to look forward to. It isn't about what I think, what Swami thinks, what anybody thinks, what your mother thinks, what anybody thinks. It's about what you think. And that's why Swami wrote this book, was to have people understand, start taking responsibility for your spiritual life, because no one's ever going to do it for you. It can't. It's impossible. So when you think about that, and you think that God is with you, the thought might be, well, where is He? I don't feel Him. I'm doing my life. I don't feel happiness. I'm not really blissful. This is a drag. I go to work every day. I wake up in the morning. I make the breakfast. I come home. I pay the bills. I'm exhausted. I barely make it to the satsang on Sunday because I'm exhausted. I can't meditate. I'm exhausted. That's a mantra that we all have. I'm exhausted. And so you start believing that you're exhausted. You start believing that this is all there is. And it's so untrue. It is such a falsehood. Because when you consider where we came from, when you consider where were you before you were born on this earth, where were you? Do you ever consider that? Do you ever meditate on that? Where was I? Where were we? We were still alive. We were still thinking. We were still feeling beings. But where were we? We were in God. That's where we were. And we were in bliss. And we had lessons to learn and karma to work out. So we chose to come into this incarnation and work out our karma with God. And before we came into this planet, we knew. We knew what we were going to be up against. We knew what the tests we were going to have. We knew. But then we come in and the memory goes, and there you are. There you are, and you're thinking this is real. No, it's not real. This is a mirage. This is a dream. You know, we don't even know what our last incarnation was. We don't even know what we had for breakfast this morning, or maybe 2 days ago. Can you remember? Can you remember what you had for dinner a week ago? No, we can't remember. So we can't remember our past incarnations, but they have led us to this point, and we have been drawn to this path. We have been drawn to God in this lifetime. We have been drawn to the possibility that we could find God right now in this life before we leave this planet. Before we leave this planet, we can do that. You know, our past lives have led us to this moment. There's a beautiful story. Master was in the theater one day. He took several disciples to the theater, and one of the disciples was sitting next to him. And there was this little girl, about 4 years old, sitting in the row in front of Master and these disciples. And this disciple could not take her eyes off of this little girl. She was mesmerized by this little girl. She just was so magnetically drawn to her, and she didn't know why. And at the end of the movie, Master turned to her and said, "You were very, very interested in that little girl, weren't you?" And she said, "Master, I couldn't take my eyes off her." "What was that?" And he said, in her last incarnation, she had been in a Nazi concentration camp. And in that experience, she had thought only of others, she had helped others, and she had not identified with the pain. She had been in God in that incarnation. She had really tried to make the best of it and not get involved and thinking that was her and her life. And so in this carnation, through that experience of bringing God into that horrible situation, she became a saint. And Master said, you feel that vibration because you're in tune with that spiritual love that's pouring from her. And I love that story because we don't know our past incarnations. We don't know how good we've been. We don't know the challenges that we've faced and overcome. We don't know the problems and how we've really tried so hard to change ourselves and failed and succeeded. We don't know. But we do know one thing, and we do know in this incarnation, we have found a spiritual family. We have found a guru. We have found God. And we know that we want to pursue that. And that's the most important thing we can have in a lifetime. Because then whatever comes, whatever karma, we can live our lives in a way that will mitigate all that karma. Remember, the guru takes a lot of that karma too. So living a spiritual life is the way to go. This morning I watched a video. Jyotish and Devi have put out a beautiful new website for the Sevaka order. These are members of Ananda that have been there for a long time in America and Italy. It's not right here in India yet because we haven't been here that long, but people that have committed their lives to God and to this movement of spiritual communities. And so they started this website. It's called the Sevaka Order. And they want to unite people in this concept of spiritual community, not necessarily the concept of buying land, move to the country, doing that's there for the future. But spiritual family connecting on a very deep level and serving the Ray, serving this work, serving one another in God, serving Swamiji, serving the Guru. Beautiful website. And Devi said something that was really interesting. She said that it's not that this is a new concept for spiritual community. In Kali Yuga, spiritual communities were walled in with heavy buildings, and there was a spiritual director and top down, and you do this and do that, and you obey, and then you will find God, hopefully, if you're really, really good, and you do everything I say. That's old. That is not a spiritual community that would fit in today's paradigm. What Swamiji was bringing and Master was bringing is a whole new concept. Spiritual community connected through deep meditation, connected through spiritual practices. So when you meditate deeply, you're automatically expand. The joy bubbles up in your heart. Joy, the nature of joy is to expand and include others. A spiritual community that really helps individual people find God. And when you have lots of spiritual individuals finding God, you've got power. You have to take responsibility for your spiritual life. But all of us together doing that creates a community. That's what a spiritual community is. It's not just this church or old concept. It's just not that anymore. Spiritual community can be two people. It can be two people meditating in the same room at the same time. Where two or more are gathered, there I am in the midst of you. It could be two people. It could be like that place, Ravi Shankar, what was his name? Yeah, Ravi Shankar. He has millions of people in his communities and buildings and gorgeous gardens and all of that. That's great. That's his work. But this work is just starting. We're a seed. We've planted the seed. Swami planted the seed. Master planted the seed 100 years ago. And so the seed of self-realization, the seed of realizing that you are part of God, that you don't have to pray that he come to you, that all you have to do is improve your knowing. It's all you have to do, the seed of self-realization. And when so many people get together and take it seriously, your spiritual life, don't put it off. And you really concentrate on your spiritual life. And if you can't meditate long hours and you can't meditate deeply, serve God. Serve God with joy. Anything you can do, anything. It really is for your own benefit. But then the magnetism grows and one soul comes and another and another and another. And pretty soon we have spiritual communities all over the world, which is happening now. We're in the stage. Ananda started 50 years ago. And in 1967 or 68, Swami started planting seeds. Okay, there was nothing. There weren't even outhouses. There weren't houses. There weren't anything. We went to a satsang at Kamani's the other day and you saw the beauty of those pictures. What's there? I mean, it looks like heaven on earth. And it looks like it's been there for thousands of years. It hasn't. But when we started, there was nothing. Then 10 years went by. It's like every decade something happened. And then the next group came in. And once there was a little form to it, the buildings were there and temples were built and there was a little form to it. Then Swami said, okay, we're going to go out. We're going to start going out. And we started communities with no form in all the different cities that we have them now. Sacramento, Palo Alto, all over America. Now we're in India. But the reason I'm bringing this up is that then 10 years later, then we had a school. Then we had people giving up their homes, giving up their jobs, giving up their dreams of material success, coming to Ananda, making sacrifices, putting their children in an untried school that might not get them into MIT because it wasn't accredited yet. Really making sacrifices. But all the time, everybody's doing Kriya Yoga, everybody's meditating, everybody's finding God. Individually, you could feel the vibrancy of that spiritual community, Ananda, because of the responsibility people take for their own spiritual lives. That's what brings it all together. 10 years later, then all of the expansion. And that's the point of a spiritual community, is that at one moment in your life, you make that decision. Am I going to live for God, or am I going to just go down the same path that everybody's telling me I should, because it's the way that you can have security in your old age and everything's going to be fine? Well, we don't take any of it with us. And Ananda is growing, just planting seeds wherever we go, just planting the seeds. The people that have come to India, I was meditating on this morning, Dhyana, Jaya, Dharmaraj, Dharmini, Vijay, Daya, Keshava, us. You know, we came to India, but we gave up all that. Not that we were attached to it, but we gave up the form. But we're still the same in loving God. We're still the same in the vibration of joy. We're still the same in Swamiji's vision. We're still the same. We're the same souls that started this so many years ago, but deeper in our love for God. And you can help people. You can really help people if you are vibrating bliss. You can help people if you're not self-involved. You can help people if you make sacrifices and don't only think of yourself. You can help people. Your heart will open. Automatically, you'll find that God has been there all the time. We have forgotten. God has never forgotten us. We think this is just our life, but God has been there every moment. He's just been waiting for us to turn our heads to him. Within. Turn within. Find me. I'm there. I've been loving you every moment all along. And one day we will all realize that. We will all know that. I wanted to close by just saying that India has a potential to really take off spiritually. And I mean, it's already ancient spiritually, but Ananda, not in the form of Ananda. It's not like we need little Ananda communities all over with, everybody in charge and how we can understand it, but communities all over, spiritual communities where people really seek God and they know how to serve God. It's the way of the future. This world is coming to an abrupt halt. One of these days it's going to happen. You can't feel it in India because everybody's on the go. But in America, you can start feeling it in the Western world. It's going to come to an abrupt halt. And what's going to be our recourse? What can we do? What can we do? We can depend on one another. We can meditate together. We can start small communities. We can support one another in our lives. We can help our children, help our mothers and fathers. We can expand out of the us four, no more paradigm. We can start growing. We can start communities right where we are. That's the movement that Master was talking about. The helping, the sharing, the giving, the unselfishness, the sacrifice. And then making that effort to really deepen your spiritual life. Get out of bed. Get out of bed. Just get out of bed. Wake up. It's like that chant this morning. When I awake, I will see thy face. It's so true. We want to be awake. We want to know that God is with us. And he is. He is. And this is a closing reading. Bliss cannot be attained, really. The soul simply realizes that bliss is, eternally, its own nature. For bliss simply is. It is what remains after everything else disappears. Bliss is the eternal, forever, unchanging reality which underlies the whole universe. All things, including all other aspects of God, are contained in conscious bliss. They merge into and become eternal conscious bliss. What the aspirant must do is make happiness first, then joy, and finally bliss his constant reality. How can you do that? I would like to offer this suggestion. This is from Swamiji. Every time a bubble of happiness appears in your heart, make it your priority. Cling to your awareness of it. The cause of that happiness may be entirely commonplace, even the fulfillment of some perfectly trivial desire. Whatever its source, enjoy the happiness as a thing in itself. Forget whatever caused it outwardly. Mentally expand that bubble every time you exhale. Watch the bubble grow larger. Dwell on the joy contained in it. Separate that joy from any limiting definition of it. For remember, true joy can never be confined. It has no boundaries. Its center is everywhere. Its circumference nowhere. Become joy itself. Be no longer contained within even the rainbow bubble of your happiness. You are absolute bliss itself. And then he just writes at the end, the goal of this book has been to inspire you to seek God as conscious bliss. That attainment of bliss will be your final proof of everything I have proclaimed. God is indeed for everyone. God bless you. Namaste. And now we'll have our arati. Oh, I wanted to listen to a song first from Swamiji.
As I ascend the spiral stairways of wakefulness, I will whisper whisper, God, God, God. I'll walk the food, and when I break my fast of nightly separation from thee, I will taste thee and mentally say, God, God, God. No matter where I go, the spotlight of my mind will ever keep turning on thee. And in the battle din of activity, my silent war cry will be, God, God, God. When boisterous storms of trials shriek, and when worries howl at me, I will drown their noises loudly chanting, God, God, God. When my mind weaves dreams with threads of memories, on that magic cloth will I emboss, God, God, God. Every night in time of deepest sleep, when my peace dreams and calls joy, joy, my joy comes singing evermore. God, God, God. In waking, eating, working, dreaming, sleeping, serving, meditating, chanting, divinely loving, my soul will constantly hum, unheard by any. God,